Ready.
Zoom. Okay, it's a few minutes past 5, and so we'd like to go ahead and call this regular scheduled meeting of the Santa Clara City Council to order. I'd like to welcome everybody who's here with us tonight. Appreciate you being here. Distinguished guests. We're going to look forward to hearing from Mitch here in a few minutes. You know, you picked the budget meeting so you're like buried in the agenda, guys. But typically that doesn't go too long. But I'm Mayor Rick Rosenberg. We have present tonight Councilman Ben Shakespeare, Councilwoman Lena Mathis, Councilman Jarrett Waite, and Councilman Wendell Gubler. I think Councilman Drake is not going to be here tonight from what he told me, so we'll excuse him. If he shows up, then he can prove me wrong, and that's cool. We'd like to begin the meeting with an opening ceremony and pledge of allegiance. We've asked Councilman Shakespeare to lead us in that. Would everyone please rise and salute the flag?
After me, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our Father in heaven, we give thanks again to meet this evening as a city and discuss the issues at hand. Father, we're so grateful for this amazing area in which we live, for the residents and for our friendships and neighbors and for those who've gone before and done so much. We're grateful, Father, for leaders of this nation and ask a blessing upon them that they might be guided in things which they are pertinent to this great nation. And at this time, we ask a blessing upon this area for rain, as we desperately need some of this time. This area might be blessed and have the resources needed to survive and thrive. And we are grateful at this time and ask a blessing on this meeting that thy spirit might be here. And we say these things humbly in the name of thy son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ben. Is there any, is there any communications and appearances? You seen anything, Christelle? Mm-hmm. Anyone here to address council on an item that's not part of the advertised agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and jump down to conflicts and disclosures. Council, is there any conflict of interest relative to the night's agenda that you need to disclose at this time? Seeing none, we will go ahead and move into the working agenda. We do have a public hearing tonight. This is a public hearing to receive public input regarding the final operating and capital budgets for fiscal year 2021-22. We've had numerous meetings and discussions relative to the budget. Council, you have the budget before you. I've asked if she would give just a brief summary of the budget for benefit of the public who might be here. And so we'll turn the time over to Debbie.
All right, so this year our budget had an increase over 8 million, and the reason it's over 8 million, and it's a 35% increase to last year, which is mainly due because we cut last year's budget extremely because of the pandemic, not knowing where it would come out. So thankfully this year we were able to add back in a lot of equipment and projects that we cut due to the pandemic. So that's why the increase was 35%. Every year we transfer monies from the enterprise funds to help cover the expenses that the general fund covers, just pure operating basis. So between all funds, we'll be transferring $245,000 from the enterprise funds to the general fund to help cover the costs that the general fund initially pays for. There are 2 new positions that are in the budget. One is for fire department, full-time fire EMT. And then the other one, economic development. So those are in the budget. And so with the increase in budget and the projects and expenses, we will need $518,000 from the fund balance, which still leaves us at a 20% unrestricted fund balance, which is a good place to be. Let's see, we will be transferring 130,000 from 100,000 from water and 30,000 from storm to cover the stormwater of impact fees to cover our MBA bond. I know this is really exciting. So parks and trails, their budget is up quite a bit because we are doing a ton of projects that we're approved, which is slurry goober, right? Slurry seal for goober, cemetery, and cemetery parking, right? And then a mower, cemetery maintenance building, BMX parking lot, adventure park design. So thankfully, we were able to get a lot of projects put back in that needed to be done. Fire and EMS budget increased over 69% over last year, mainly due to some big purchase items, a new chase truck to replace that, or sorry, radios, a vehicle, which is a new chase truck, replace a wildland engine, and extrication equipment. So that's up 69% over last year. And we also, we split the cost with Ivan City, and that is based off of population and sewer, and we do a average of that. So that did, we picked up 1% there. So we now will have to pay 46% of the police budget. They will reimburse us for 46%. Sorry, 54% of fire EMS. Property tax, we actually were a little high, barely, but a little high on what we were anticipating. We did get the rate from the county, and so we did decrease the number by what we were provided by 14,000. So I'm going to move on to the enterprise funds unless anyone has any questions about the general fund.
Go ahead.
So we have 4 different enterprise funds, and they pretty much act solely as like their individual businesses. The water fund maintains 53 miles of water distribution. Their budget this year was a decrease of 29%. In the budget, we did budget some equipment, Dustin's, a truck and a crew truck, and towable air compressor. The sewer fund maintains 36 miles of sewer. It's a decrease in budget of 5%. The electric department provides power to over 2,800 residents, and there is an increase of 1% on their budget. The stormwater fund maintains 10 miles of stormwater lines, 65 storm drain outfalls, and 437 drain inlet boxes. Their decrease in budget over last year was 6%. So there is a budget book that is on the presentation, and I have to give all amendment to Christelle. She is the one that put it together. She did an amazing job. So everything that I just said is in that budget or in the budget book. So if you have any questions, I'm here to try to answer.
Council, questions for Debbie? Say this is something we've reviewed several times in the last few weeks, and so I appreciate that presentation, Debbie. Jay, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing and ask anyone who has come to offer public input to the council regarding the budget to give them the opportunity. You just need to come up to the mic and state your name and address. And I can't talk anybody into coming up, and so we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Appreciate all the hard work that went into that. And I would ask council to go ahead and go down to item general business 1 and consider approval of the Santa Clara City fiscal year 2021-22 final budget and approve ordinance 2021-07. And ask council if there's any discussion or any additional questions that we need to ask staff concerning the budget. If there's no questions, then I would look for a motion.
Mayor, I move that we approve the Santa Clara City fiscal year 2021 to 2022 final budget and approve ordinance 2021-07 as presented.
Second.
Got a motion by Jarrett and a second by Lena to approve the city fiscal year 2021-22 final budget and approve ordinance 2021-07. Is there any question on that motion, council? If not, this is a money item. Roll call. Dan?
Aye.
Lena?
Aye.
Jarrett?
Aye.
Wendell?
Aye.
The ayes have it 4-0. The The budget is approved. Thank you, council.
Mayor,
The voice
is-
of, is that Councilman Drake?
no, this is Brock Jacobson.
Brock who? Hi, Brock.
Hello. Thank you. I just want to say thank you to the council for their faith in us and putting this together, this budget together. Also, their help through the council retreat and giving us guidance to put the budget together. And then thank all the directors and Debbie and Christelle in putting this together. We do appreciate it. What you are allowed us to budget, as Debbie talked about, in equipment and projects that I think will be great. She mentioned some cut from last year's budget, but great additions and things that will help our staff continue to serve the residents of Santa Clara. So thank you.
Thank you, Brock. I know you put a lot of hard work into the budget as well, so we appreciate your service there, sir.
Thank you.
Council, with your permission, I'd like to jump down to item number 2, general business item number 2. We've got some really important folks out in the audience, and I anticipate hearing their report every year, and don't want to keep them here all night while we go through some of the other stuff. So, Mitch, this is a report, General or St. George Regional Hospital update. Mitch Clara is here, one of our own residents, and he can introduce his guest, and let's turn it over to him.
All right. Thanks, Rick. And I am a proud citizen of this great city of Santa Clara. I love it here and appreciate your service and everything you're doing to make this a better place to live. And I appreciate the challenges that you're experiencing with our growth and development. So thank you. I want to introduce our new hospital board chair. Many of you may know Cindy Gilbert. So I want to talk a little bit about her credentials briefly, and also some of her hobbies and interests that I find simply captivating. But she's an attorney, so she's corporate counsel for Utah Iron. So there's a newly opened mine west of Cedar City. So Cindy's very involved in that with her husband, Steve. Gilbert Development, and then Crusher Rentals and Sales. She's corporate legal counsel there. She and Steve own Diamond G Rodeos. So they breed and clone rodeo bucking bulls. So that's amazing. Some interesting facts about that and her hobby. She, from what I understand, was the first woman flank person in the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association. And she flanked over 20,000 animals during her career. She holds an arena record for the highest rated bull ride from the National Finals Rodeo in 2001. So
Very cool.
pretty cool stuff. So with that, I want to say that I'm just super impressed with her commitment to healthcare and how much she deeply cares about doing the right thing. And those are great assets to be serve on our hospital board. And I want to thank Lena for her many years of service to our hospital board as well.
It is a pleasure to be here after my husband has mined the iron mines for 30 years. Now we own it. And we've been very pleased that we're on the 62nd train. We're the biggest customer of Union Pacific. And we've had 13 ships go to China since October. So that's a real boon to the southwestern area, not only to the workers that work for us. So for us, healthcare is a major impact on what we can provide to our employees. And I've been lucky enough to never having been in a hospital. I didn't even know my own blood type, but it was nice to be able to get a hyperbaric chamber to work my brother is one of the heart surgeons, Dr. Woodbury, in St. George that I helped get here, and NICU, neurosurgery, back surgery, all of the above. So for me, healthcare is best if you don't ever need it. So I've been very, very grateful to be on the preventative side, which is the way I like to practice law. We're very grateful to Mayor Rosenberg for stepping up to the plate in a pandemic, helping people social distance and do what was right in a very scary period of time. And we've had the opportunity to work with Lena, who I adore. We always say we'll go to lunch, but you get busy and don't ever get that done. And also Jack Renoff was an amazing person on the foundation board and the governing board to help in governing and also raising funds. So what we're here to do is make sure you never need the hospital, but if you do, that we have all of the services that you need. Don't we have a, so we want to thank you as a community for doing everything you can to support our level 2 trauma center. And like I say, we try to keep people safe, but it's so nice to not have to go to Salt Lake or to Las Vegas with our loved ones to have that care so close. And that has really changed a lot in the 25 years I've been involved in healthcare. As you can see, what we try to do is help people live the healthiest lives possible. And if you look at the next slide with our Board of Trustees, we have a wide range of individuals. Some of them you may know, some of them hopefully you'll get to know throughout your service as city council people. But once again, our purpose is to make the best hospital that you never have to use out there. So even with the facilities that you have here in Santa Clara, you have a real niche of people that you've got a lot of people that serve in that community, and we appreciate everything that you've done to make a difference there.
Thanks, Cindy. Now just a general update on what's happening at the hospital. I've highlighted some of the services that we provide, but the scope and the breadth and depth of services we offer at our hospital for a community this size is almost unprecedented. We're one of the largest trauma centers now in the state of Utah, serving Southern Utah and all of our visitors from across the world for our parks. It's a privilege to serve those that we care for. So when you drive down the freeway in any community or any state, you see that blue H sign that means a hospital. But a hospital is not a hospital, just like a car is not a car. So in distinguishing our hospital as a major trauma center, there are 5 different levels of hospitals when you see that blue H. There's a level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, and non-designated. This is data from the state trauma registry, and what it tells us is that if you're severely injured, you need to get to a level 1 or level 2 trauma center as quickly as you can, because you see the percentage of people that die that are severely ill or injured precipitously drops by the level of the trauma center. That's significant. And I've got a small map of the state of Utah and all the different hospitals. There aren't many level 1 and level 2 trauma centers across the state, and we're fortunate to have one right here in St. George. So we provide the depth and breadth of services at our hospital to save your life. So you want to get to St. George Regional Hospital because we have all the resources there to give yourself the very best chance to survive. And we have data to support that. So that's significant. People often ask, well, what's preventing us from becoming a level 1 trauma center? Well, really the only thing is for us to become a teaching hospital, and that's something that's in our 5-year plan. So great resource. And every time that I was recruited here from Texas, and I've never seen the size of a hospital in this size of a community in the entire state of Texas. This is a remarkable asset with world-class healthcare close to home. All right, so we're also known as a really innovative hospital. And some of our recent innovations I'll just briefly touch upon. Our heart services are cutting edge, the latest technical and clinical advancements at our hospital. The latest procedure is left atrial appendage closure procedure. I'll simplify that in terms of what that really means is there are about 3 million to 6 million people in the United States that have AFib or atrial fibrillation. That's just an irregular heart rate. a rhythm. And so oftentimes those patients have to take a blood thinner. That's a nuisance and a hassle. My mom's on one. But we now have a procedure where we can close that left atrial appendage through this catheter-based procedure. We take a catheter and what we call a Watchman device, and we create a tiny incision in your leg. We go through the vein up into your heart, and we close that with this Watchman device so that you no longer have to have that blood thinning medication. It's a game changer. And with our aging population across the country, in 2030, we're projected to have about 12 million people across the United States that have AFib. So we continue to be cutting edge, leading edge. I could spend all night talking about the cool technology over at the hospital that's designed to save lives. It's remarkable. All right. Pediatricians. Normally, my kids, well, now they're older, but when they were younger, we saw pediatricians. My wife took our kids to pediatricians, and they typically are in outpatient clinics. Well, now we have pediatricians that only work in the hospital. So, for example, recently we had a tiny infant that came to our emergency department. They were visiting from up north, and they were concerned about the health of their newborn baby, but they were away from home. And we had our pediatrician immediately available to come into the emergency department to help consult on that child to make a recommendation. And we ended up admitting that child to our newborn intensive care unit and saving the baby's life. If the baby would have if they would have driven to Salt Lake, if they didn't choose to come to our hospital, that time would have resulted in the death of the baby. So these experiences happen at our hospital every day. And so we now have pediatricians that just work in the hospital. We have physicians now that only work in the hospital that care for heart patients. That's pretty significant. They don't have an outpatient practice. We have a great reputation for spine surgery. I hope none of us ever need it, but probably during the course of our lives, 8 out of 10 of us are going to probably have back pain. A very smaller percentage of us will end up having spine surgery. But if it's needed, we have one of the best spine programs in the state of Utah, to where with our quality measures and our cost standards, we now are contracting with national insurance companies who are absolutely bringing patients from across the country to our hospital here in St. George. That's significant. So employees from all over the country can come here at a reasonable cost with a great quality outcome to St. George. And we have a place where they can stay overnight to be here and then fly back to where they live. That's remarkable. The hereditary population study, we believe the future of medicine is in prevention. We're very good at curing and treating, but we want to get a step ahead. So you can come over to the hospital, have your blood drawn, and participate in a hereditary population study. This is led by Lincoln Nadald. So what that means is we can sequence your genes in rapid fashion. The Human Genome Project took 10 years and cost about $3 billion. We can sequence a person's genes now for free and do it within a day. So what do we do with that information? What we're looking for in your DNA is a genetic variant, a mutant. We're trying to identify cancer and heart disease patterns. Now, we're going to expand that out in the future to Alzheimer's and MS, but right now we're looking for genetic variants around cancer and heart conditions. And so what we're doing is that if you get a phone call back within 30 days, you'll hear from a genetic counselor that will say, we found this genetic variant and we want to work with you to prevent this disease from manifesting itself. And to prevent all that pain, suffering, possible death, and all the money you spent on that, we're trying to identify that genetic variant up front to prevent it from occurring altogether. That's cutting edge. The leading cancer center for all of Intermountain Healthcare is right here in St. George. And we're caring for patients around the country and around the world through these sequencing processes. It's significant, and we have a partnership with Stanford University. So I'd encourage you all to go over there to our lab, get your blood drawn, and participate in this study. We're finding very interesting family genetics that cause disease and patterns, and we're able to help families understand that and prevent it. It's powerful. Finally, we all want access to healthcare 24/7, and we have this Connect Care app where you can connect with a physician or provider just by clicking a button. And I think the cost is around $30 to $50. $50. So The recognition that we're getting from across the country for our hospital is significant. So US News and World ranked us as one of the best regional hospitals in the country for hearts conditions, for chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, we do really good hips and knees at our hospital. If you ever need those replaced, that's something with your rodeo habits, Cindy, you might need it sometime. But anyway, we have Medicare and Medicaid. They rank hospitals on a scale of 1 to 5 stars, and we're a 5-star hospital. We focus on women's health, and we're recognized for the care we provide women. Our patients' recommendation of our hospital is over the 90th percentile, and quality measures rank us as an A, and great recognition for heart care and stroke care at our hospital. Good validation of the work that we strive to do. We are very involved in our communities. We have health fairs, flu shot shootouts, COVID vaccinations. There was a whole lot that we did in helping the community work through COVID and the pandemic. And just as an editorial comment, we're starting to see the post-traumatic stress of our nurses and our caregivers at the hospital. And that's something we didn't quite anticipate. The psychological stress, anxiety, depression is very real on the heels of this pandemic, because that nurse became the patient's caregiver. That didn't change, but they also became their family member, their emotional support. They became everything to that patient. And it was very difficult for them to see healthy people come into the hospital, go on a respirator, and many die. And that was very hard for them. And I think they're still processing that. And we're trying to provide support for them. But it's something that I don't think any of us quite understood the impact of on the heels of the pandemic. I'm concerned. We've had nurses that have left the healthcare profession altogether on the heels of this. So I don't think we've seen the end of the impact of what we went through. We work on community emergency preparedness plans, kindergarten dental screenings. We employ the athletic trainers at the university and all the high schools. We're trying to understand, for people who can't afford healthcare, what's driving the cost of healthcare. And we're trying to really hone in on help those individuals afford healthcare and make it more affordable. We do federally qualified healthcare clinics, and we participate in the Huntsman World Senior Games, St. George Marathon, the Ironman, and many more community events. That's all I have. It's a privilege for us to serve our community. And are there any questions you have for Cindy? Or Terry Draper's over marketing communications. She's an icon in our community, and just so grateful for her. But we'll field any questions you have.
Maybe not a question, but a comment, but I just want to say thanks from the mayors for the weekly or the bi-monthly now phone calls that we have, and the participation of Dr. Ferguson and Dr. Carroll and Terry in those calls has been huge as far as keeping us in the loop on, you could get the report from the health department on the cases.
Yeah.
But when we got the report from Dr. Ferguson on the patients that were in the ICU and the patients were on the floor, and when that was near capacity, he would share the stress with the communities, and it helped me a lot understand what was going on and the importance. And just want to say thanks.
Thank you.
And the fact that they continue even now with numbers down. They continue to sign on and give us those updates, and it's, I think, very beneficial, and it's brought the mayors closer together through the county. So I just want to say thank you.
Thanks, Rick. I'll pass that along. It's meaningful. Any other questions or comments?
Go ahead.
Sorry, I just have one you made a comment about the size of the hospital based on a large hospital in a small community. And seen that in Texas. You have a reason for that? Why do we have such a great facility in such a small community?
Yeah, I can answer that. I mean, if we were an independent hospital owned by the county or an independent hospital owned by some other business entity, we wouldn't have this. Intermountain Healthcare is a nationally and worldwide recognized leader in healthcare. And I think Intermountain Healthcare was behind all of this. I credit my mentor, Terry Kane, who had the vision to say, we need a trauma center here in St. George. And she had a compelling case to share, and Intermountain Healthcare supported it. Our hospital on River Road cost $90 million back in 2003, and our community raised $10 million. So it was a total of $100 million. The community raised 10 million and Intermountain contributed 90 million. People care about their health. People want a major trauma center close to home. If people talk to you about their factors of retiring here, it's this beautiful weather, the beautiful place to live, and healthcare. And I'm confident we're filling a really important need there. So I think we also have the demographics. You can't recruit a neurosurgeon here and have 3 brain cases for that neurosurgeon to do a year. So we draw from a population of almost 300,000 when you look at Arizona, Nevada, and Utah. I had a voicemail yesterday that I shared with my team from a patient that drove all the way up from Las Vegas and left me a voicemail and said, I came up here. The wait times are horrendous down there and you're treated like a number. I came here and every staff that I interacted with was kind and friendly and acted like they cared that I was there. We're starting to get patients from Las Vegas coming up here because the cost is significantly less and we're nice. I'm worried about our growth. We're building a hospital in Hurricane where our groundbreaking is on June 16th. We think the eastern part of the county is experiencing tremendous growth, and we believe that Intermountain Healthcare and St. George Regional Hospital can best serve those people. So we'll start with an emergency department and we'll expand that over time, but we're building another hospital to continue to grow and meet those demands. But I think it's visionary leadership. And it's the support of Intermountain Healthcare and it's support of people who donate their time and money to advance healthcare in our community. It's inspirational. Yeah. Thank you, Ben. I love your new home. I drive past it most mornings on my mountain bike ride. That's an awesome place.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Any other comments or questions? I don't want to take up.
What's new? What do you got new in the hopper over there?
So healthcare has got to be more affordable. So for radiology imaging procedures, we're developing a new imaging center right across from the hospital that'll have more affordable imaging and radiology procedures, dramatically lower cost. And we're developing an ambulatory surgery center so that we have a lower cost option for surgery. And then I would say, Rick, nothing more important than the hereditary population study with sequencing genes and getting ahead of disease patterns. We're putting a lot of money and time and research into that. For my daughter was recently diagnosed with a tumor. She's 22 years old. And fortunately, it was benign, but I lost a lot of sleep thinking, how's this young person, how could you prevent that? And I think this is exactly designed to do that. You have too many young people that come to the hospital that it's too late. And we've got to sequence these genes. We've got to identify those genetic anomalies and we have to treat it before it presents itself. So big stuff. Yeah, big stuff.
Cool.
Have you identified what you're doing with the 400 East Campus yet?
Oh, that's a good question. I want to do something with it. The central utility plan, I really want to do something with it, Lena. But the problem we have is our central utility plant is end of life and it would cost a lot of money to replace. And if you replace a central utility plant, you got to refurbish these old buildings. So our goal is to scrape it. It's just too cost prohibitive to refurbish it. So there's 2 things that we're working on. One is Intermountain Healthcare wants some property that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints owns in Salt Lake. And the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is interested in our property on that campus because the temple's there. There's a family history center, a new stake center. So that's in discussion right now with some of our corporate real estate attorneys and team members. And then what I would really like if that falls through is there's a lot of seniors that want independent living and they want to incorporate healthcare into their living community. So I would love to see an active adult community for retired people there that we develop and that we then say, here's the cost of your townhome or your condo. And then if you want a physician and live-well services and all these hospital services, it's kind of like a la carte. You can pay for that on top of that. So you integrate all their healthcare services into the retirement community. I know there's a lot of demand and interest for that. So we'll see. But we want it scraped. Yeah.
Cool. Any other questions, council? Cindy, is the flanker the one that pulls the flank strap on the bulls when they come out of the chute? I sat on a couple right out of high school, learned my lesson fast and went back to college. But, um,
I don't think any of us would want to mess with Cindy.
no, congratulations on the new position. We appreciate you serving there. We will do it.
Thanks.
Any other questions, council?
Thank you for
Thank you,
your time.
Mitch. Appreciate the update. Look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you.
Okay, council, let's go back to the consent agenda. On the consent agenda tonight, you have the claims and minutes from May 26th, regular city council meeting, the June 2nd city council work meeting, and the claims through June the 9th. You can see the calendar of events coming up with our meeting schedule. Anybody got any question on anything on the consent agenda, anything with the claims and minutes? If there's not, I would look for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion, Mayor, that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Ben and a second by Lena to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any question on that motion?
Did we want to mention the public hearings that are part of that?
Oh,
3 and 4.
they are. Excuse me. It also included setting a public hearing for the fiscal 2021 budget amendment for June 23rd at 5, and the public hearing for the water rate increase June 23rd at 5:05 as well. So, both those dates were June 23rd. I may have said 22nd. So that's also on there. So
I will
you're okay
include
with
that in the motion.
And Lena?
Second.
Okay, thanks, Jarrett, for bringing that to my attention. This is money item with the claims, so we'll do roll call. Wendell?
Aye.
Jarrett?
Aye.
Lena?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you, council. Back on general business, item number 3, UAMPS update. Gary? How's vacation?
It was great. Fishing was a little slow, but it was great. Anytime we can get out there, out in the outdoors, it's a great time. I just want to give the council a little update on the carbon-free power project. We had the information that I have is from our last meeting in May. And also we had a meeting this afternoon. It was, the meeting this afternoon was an executive session, so I cannot go into detail on that meeting in this meeting, but I can go over it with the mayor and council in private later if you have any questions on it. I'm not sure how much you guys have been, I know you know about the carbon-free power project, but I don't know how much you've know about it. So I'd like to just show a short little video that was prepared by, I think it was either New Scale or UAMPS that prepared the video. But Christelle's going to play this little video. It's about 5 minutes long is all, and it talks about the project.
The UAMPS Carbon-Free Power Project is the first small modular nuclear reactor project in the United States. It uses NuScale Power's advanced light water reactor technology that is simple, flexible, built in a factory, and is dramatically safer than traditional large reactors. If necessary, the NuScale SMR shuts itself down and self-cools for an indefinite period of time, with no operator action required, no additional water, and no AC or DC power needed. It is the first ever small modular reactor to have received U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission design approval. This next generation nuclear facility will be located at a site within the boundaries of the nation's premier nuclear research facility, the Idaho National Laboratory. Unlike other small modular reactor projects, the Carbon-Free Power Project, or CFPP, is not theoretical or far off in the future. It uses proven technology first deployed by the U.S. Navy. The licensing, development, financing, and construction of the project are all straightforward and doable. It will be up and running, producing affordable, dispatchable electricity by the end of the decade. Each SMR NuScale power module is capable of producing 77 megawatts of carbon-free power. A nuclear plant that houses 12 modules has a total output of 924 megawatts of energy. Plants can be scaled all the way down to 4 modules with a total gross output of 308 megawatts. The carbon-free power project will be interconnected to the transmission grid at PacifiCorp's Antelope substation, making it available to utilities within the balancing authorities of PacifiCorp, Idaho Power Company, Bonneville Power Administration, and Western Area Power Administration, as well as the new energy imbalance market in the West. The project will provide dispatchable carbon-free energy, allowing individual utilities greater flexibility to follow the load. The plant will provide reliability 24 hours a day, 365 days per year, and at a price below that of other generation options. The SMR project will enable, complement, and stabilize high amounts of renewable energy, allowing many utilities to completely decarbonize their energy portfolios while ensuring grid stability. The carbon-free power project will be owned by UAMPS and will also be available to additional ownership partners. UAMPS members have currently contracted to purchase 100 megawatts for a minimum term of 40 years from the 2029 commercial operation date. The project has contracted with NewScale and Fluor Corporation to license and construct the power plant, and UAMPS will operate it. As a risk management tool, the carbon-free power project has a contractual agreement with NewScale to ensure that the facility will deliver energy over its first 40 years of operation at a cost not to exceed $55 per megawatt hour. That price is an all-in cradle-to-grave cost that makes the project more competitive with other non-intermittent dispatchable energy sources, but with the additional great benefit of being carbon-free. If during development, the delivered energy cost rises higher than $55 per megawatt hour, then the project may terminate, and depending on the state of development, participants will receive back all or a portion of their out-of-pocket costs. The U.S. Department of Energy is a key partner in the project. It is granted a cost-sharing award over the next 9 years of up to $1.4 billion, subject to annual appropriations. The cost-share arrangement starts with DOE contributing 79% of the costs and the participants contributing 21% of the costs. The DOE shares decline over the 9-year period so that DOE provides a total contribution of 23%, most of it in the early years of the project, which reduces risk to participants. A number of options exist to participate in the carbon-free power project. For example, public power utilities may join UAMPS as a member and participate through take-or-pay contracts. Other utilities may participate by entering into power purchase agreements or by becoming joint owners of the project. Utilities that join the project as a UAMPS member by June 1st, 2021 may receive a first mover discount of up to $5 per megawatt hour, with the added benefit of no participant billing until after commercial operations begin. Join UAMPS and help bridge today's technology into tomorrow's carbon-free energy needs.
Thank you, Christelle. UAMPS is contracted with NewScale for an 8-pack design, but I think they're considering reducing that to a 6-pack design. I'm not sure of all the particulars of why they're going to do that. I think it's mainly just to the trying to sell that many megawatts. The 6-pack design will produce 462 megawatts. Just for a reference, Santa Clara peak usage last summer was right around 19 megawatts. And during the winter, we're right around 5 or 6 megawatts. That kind of just gives you an idea of what a megawatt will produce. Total UAMP member subscriptions right now sits right around 100 megawatts. Santa Clara has a subscription for 3 megawatts. The San Juan coal-fired power plant is going to be decommissioned soon. And so we are considering upping our subscription to probably 5 or 6 megawatts. And that's something we'll have to discuss if we want to participate more in this project. This project is one of the cheaper in the area. There's some other plants in the Northwest that they're, one of them is in California. It's a hydrogen injection process. And I'm not sure are too familiar with that process, but their price right now is like $86 a megawatt. So this project, right around $55, is a fairly cheap product for a secure resource. If other utilities that are reviewing the LOI or the letter of intent and decide to describe the 462 megawatts, may all be sold. Other, like I said, other generation projects are right around $80 to $90 a megawatt. One of the largest subscriptions hopefuls is Grant County PUD in Washington State. They are looking at purchasing 150 megawatts. They haven't signed an LOI yet, but they are seriously considering it. They are looking at other options with NuScale, but right now our project is farther along than any other project, and the price is a lot more competitive. So UAMPS is pretty confident that Grant County will sign for 150 megawatts. There are 5 other utilities in the Northwest and in Arizona that are interested in this project for a total of about 100 megawatts too. There are some members of UAMPS that have dropped out of this project that are now looking to get back in. Beaver is one of them, and he didn't mention in our meeting today some of the others that are looking to get back in it. So far, everything is going good with the Department of Energy as far as the permitting process, and things are moving forward on the ground. Some of the items that have been completed so far are core drilling, well preparations, biological and cultural surveys, geotechnical walkdowns, and mowing the site for future groundwork. Does anyone have any questions that I could answer?
How many, I know Jarrett's been to Corvallis. You two haven't been. Wendell, you haven't been. This, I mean, this has been going on for the last 5, 6, maybe more years. And it's been really interesting for me to watch this technology develop and watch them be able to work the price down, lower that price since we started, and get in a better contractual arrangement. I watched what happened in California last August when they had the fires and the smoke clogged up the solar panels, and we saw power rates up over $1,000 a megawatt for a short period of time, which if you're thinking if you're buying power on the open market. And I was with a group of gentlemen during that thing. We were trying to go fishing, but the fishing trip didn't last very long because they went into massive fire drill because they were losing millions of dollars a day when the power rates were that high. We watched what happened in Texas this winter. As we keep decommissioning our coal-fired plants and our muscle and our power grid, the need for these types of alternatives is going to become more and more necessary, in my opinion. So I've been a strong supporter of the carbon-free project since it started and continue to be so today. So I'm guessing they'll have another update for us in August at the member conference.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll be over it. And then also in our meeting today, Doug Hunter was saying that when they finalize some more options like the 6-pack design and the pricing, they will prepare a presentation for the council. And they will either do that virtually, or they said they could do it in person, or we may have a meeting in Salt Lake where everybody can come and they will address us then. But yeah, I'm with you, Mayor. This is a great project. I mean, for a firm resource, it's clean power, it's reliable. I don't think there's anything out there in the future that's going to compare with it.
And it's safe. Navy's been using similar technology since the 50s, and
yeah,
and it's proven itself. So,
yep. So if we can get into more, we'll have to look at the our load and our current resources and which ones we're going to lose, and make a decision on if we want to purchase more.
When does San Juan go offline?
I haven't heard exactly. I don't have an exact answer for you.
That's one of the coal-fired plants that we get some power from now. Lose.
we get about 2 megawatts out of San Juan, and we will lose that. There is in the works a company wanting to buy San Juan and do a carbon capture where they will capture the carbon from the coal fire. There'll still be a coal fire plant, but it's a different technology that'll capture the carbon and store it. But I'm not sure how far along that is and if it's actually going to happen or not. But we do have an option to buy into that as well.
Cool.
Is the reason going from 8 to 6 simply cost management at this point, or?
Some of it has to do with selling enough megawatts, enough capacity from that plant to make it worth putting in an 8-pack design. I think that's the main driver.
It just seems like a mistake. And again, I know there's some pushback on this, which is unfortunate because there's no way we can be carbon free. We can say all we want and storage and everything else. There's no way you're going to make carbon free without this option.
Yes.
And you look at the way the West is growing and that map showing the coverage of what the power grids cover. And then you take all the plants that are going to be decommissioned. And I mean, it just seems, again, those numbers for subscriptions are down. And I know there's been a very vocal group out there against this, but it's, I'm sure which is part of it, but just seems we're going to need that power. So the whole West is going to need that power to meet the carbon free, even to meet the carbon free goals they have. You still need a sustainable energy source.
Yes.
I think they're looking at batteries and they're watching the developing technology with batteries for solar storage. But I agree this technology was New Scale developed it to use in developing countries as a way to get power into areas that don't have power now or the ability to do coal fire or anything like that. The technology was developed for that. And I think we're taking advantage of that and using this plant to run through the NERC approvals and all that other stuff. And I think you're going to see more of this in the future.
Yeah.
I probably won't see it, but my kids might.
When's to meet their date of 2029 to have power on the grid? When do they need to actually physically, obviously there's a whole process leading up to that, but when do they actually need to start construction of physical facility? I know the modules are built off site and shipped in, which is a huge time savings.
Yes. Yeah, and safe.
Yeah.
I'm not for sure on when they need to start. They are, like I said, they are doing core drilling. They've cleared the land, mowed it for future groundwork that needs to be done, but I'm not sure when they need to actually start construction.
Okay.
But they're in the process of, like I said, the core drilling, testing for wells and stuff like that. So some of that groundwork is getting started, but
Yeah.
as far as groundbreaking, I'm not for sure.
And I just wanted to add, I've always been inclined to increase our subscription. Talking to Jack, just it felt like 1 to 5 or 6 was probably right. So you'll have my support if you want to look into that for sure.
Yeah, like I said, especially if we're not for sure on the future of our other resources right now. I think 5 to 6 megawatts would be perfect for us.
And I just wanted to ask, how are you integrating into UAMPS? How's it going up to meetings and everything?
Good. Well, I'm learning a lot. I'm not gonna lie. There's a lot to learn. I don't know how Jack honestly did both jobs. He did an amazing job. I really appreciate all the work that he did. And Dustin and I both agree that we don't know how he did it. So hats off to Jack. But it's going good. Good. It's a learning experience. I appreciate your patience for me not having all the answers, but we'll get there.
Are you on any boards yet, or is that coming up?
What's that?
Are you on any of the boards of UAMPS?
No, Jack will continue to be on the boards until December, and then that's when they do the elections, and then Jack will try to get me on some of the boards then.
Okay.
Other questions, Gary? Thanks for the update, Gary.
Hey, thank you, Council. Appreciate it.
Bill, Doug, thanks for the video. We appreciate that.
You bet. Like I said, if there were some discussions that I may have with you privately on the meeting we had today, so maybe I'll get with you after.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Okay, item number 4, consider approval of a fireworks restriction in Santa Clara City and approve the fireworks in the Goobler Park parking lot. Chief Hancy?
Are we on? Okay. So Christelle has brought up the newest map that we worked on. If you recall, after our last work meeting, we had a discussion on limiting fireworks due to the extreme drought and the dryness and what's going on all around us. So this is basically the latest map that Christelle and I have come up with. And it got to a point that we were getting pretty nitpicky. We were basically going house by house at one point, I think, to look at the areas where there were dry areas around or open fields. And this is where we landed. So it may be just a little bit different than what you have in the packet that was in the council packet today. But that's where we're at. I know you've seen what some of the other cities and jurisdictions are doing around us, limiting fireworks to just very specific parks or smaller areas. We do have one of the larger areas, it looks like. I do want to also allow fireworks to be lit in the parking area of Goobler Park. I think Brad and I discussed that a little bit, and he's okay with that. And we think that would be a safe location. So just wondering if council has any further comments, ideas, if you want to go with this map, or if there's any further discussion or concern. I do have a concern with the dryness of the area. I think we've narrowed it down to limiting to areas we feel pretty safe about, other than doing a complete ban, which would upset a few people, of course. But I don't know. My opinion is fireworks are a fun thing, but they're also cause us a lot of work and potential for a lot of damage and danger this year.
Christelle, can you pan the map up?
Mayor, while we're looking at that, and this is after we left the last meeting, this is my, I think, 4th year here. I think we've done this every year. I mean, it seems like we're in droughts more than not, but would it be something we develop a map like this and just make that our just so people get, hey, this is where we set off fireworks every year. This is where the map is. This is I think in most cases we're probably going to be dry in July about every year.
Yeah, I mean, we're being pretty lenient as far as from what the other communities are doing. They've shut it down to, I think Ivans is only one of their parks.
Yeah, just the dirt areas in their 3 ball fields in their parks. So
Yeah.
everything else in Ivans City is
Closed.
closed down. So it's
Oh.
very restricted. Ours is quite liberal or lenient. We did want to take off everything in the valley area. Pretty much, you'll look that we do have an area open down by Arrowhead Elementary, those neighborhoods down there. But everything on the south end of Santa Clara Drive, we've limited that, restricted it.
I would probably suggest you add the Villa Bonita subdivision right there. Close it just because of the dense vegetation that is just to the east of it in the wash.
Okay.
That's a Santa Clara subdivision, so we ought to probably close it for the same reason we closed the lots along Santa Hollow Wash to the north of it.
Right. Okay. We can add that to the map. And then what we'll do is we'll put once the council agrees to this or has any further suggestion, we'll put the link on the city website. It also goes to the state fire marshal's website. So when people look at areas that fireworks are allowed, they can see that what Santa Clara is allowing or restricting.
And this is on for action tonight, council, so
I have a question about the park.
Yes.
Are we going to have water available? I'm just thinking we go and light fireworks off in our street and we always have a hose and a bucket full of water and kind of prepared just in case.
Yeah, what,
Is there any water that's going to be available for anybody or somebody monitoring the park just in case?
yeah, so every 4th of July and 24th is we have fireworks patrols. I'm thinking that we'd like to have one brush truck stationed right there at the
Oh.
park
Okay.
with a water source, and we could even potentially look at having a disposal area that people can put their fireworks in after they're done, like a metal container.
Right.
Because that's
Awesome.
another concern. After
Right.
they light their fireworks, they just throw it in the dumpster, and then we have dumpster fires later on in the evening. So things like that, we want to be proactive. We want to have a brush truck there on site. Potentially even, some hose lines out or something. We
Okay.
could do that. Look
Great.
at doing that too.
Yeah, it'd be a dumpster fire. Let's put some dumpsters out there.
The only caution I would have with that is make sure that brush truck's gonna it may have to roll
Yes.
during the event, so.
That's the beauty of having it up there at Goobler is you're right next door.
We're right
You're ready
next
to
door.
roll.
Yep.
Yeah, don't burn down the fire station.
No, please. That would be a disaster, wouldn't it?
We've had a roof collapse. Don't let it burn down.
I was just curious, Mayor, maybe you've heard something, or Chief Hansi, like why have other communities been so restrictive? I've just read the articles that they are doing the restrictions, but I haven't heard a lot of the why besides it's dry.
I think it's
Is
just
that-
the
is that
risk.
literally all it is?
It's just the state. I mean, I saw a Facebook post from Governor Cox yesterday that kind of led me to think, don't give up on closing fireworks statewide. Where you wouldn't be able to let them off at all statewide. That could still happen before we get into the fireworks season.
It sure could. And I know the governor's restricted it for unincorporated areas outside, city limits that it's.
Citla lands are closed.
it's
There's a lot of
restricted
those have been
totally.
closed.
St. George starts the hill on fire every year with their fireworks
Pretty
show.
much.
So
Guaranteed.
Happens every year.
what's that?
Happens every year.
Every
doesn't
year.
it?
It's the best part of the show. So
The after show.
Yeah, I would say I like this map for sure. I just want to make sure we're being as restricted as we need to be responsible. So I was just surprised to see so many other cities
Yeah,
really
going as
shrink it
far
down
as they
so
did.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
in a year of, I shouldn't say, never mind. I won't say that. That'll go on the record and I'll get in trouble. So
Okay, council, any comments, any other comments relative to the map?
I think Villa Bonita is good. I think adding that to the
Yeah,
map,
it's
that'll
really
protect the
dense.
border right there. And I like this, keeps everything inside the city and
On paved roads. I
On
like
paved
it. And
road.
I appreciate your change up on the north end too.
Yeah, we looked, like I said, certain points we were going house by house and it got a little tedious. Got what you were after.
Appreciate it.
again, I think in years, I mean, we want to protect the washes in every year. So it's
Yeah,
on
I
that.
probably live with this map with maybe as some of the areas develop, maybe you expand the allowable, but
Yeah.
the reason the red's there's a specific reason, I think, for every property that's inside the red with the risk, so.
I see you went
Evaluate
like
that.
300 yards around my house.
Yeah.
Got a
It's not
reason
allowed
for
within
that
a half
or?
mile of your house. That was by design.
And no dumpsters for you.
No dumpsters. Well, Mayor, I think we look good.
Yeah, a lot of thoughts gone into this, a lot of care for sure.
Okay, and then let's go ahead and look for a motion just to approve the fireworks restrictions. Approve the map showing the
Yeah.
fireworks restriction. there.
And to allow it in the parking area at Goobler Park.
Okay, there you
Oh.
go.
I'll make that motion that we approve firework restrictions as presented and allow fireworks in Goober Park. We will add Villa Bonita subdivision to the restricted area.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Ben and a second by Jarrett to approve the fireworks restrictions designated on the map, allowing it in Goober Park and adding Villa Bonita subdivision to the restricted area. Any,
Mayor, sorry, could I just add that would be the Rachel side of Goobler Park, the Rachel
just the Rachel parking lot.
Yeah,
at Beaver
because the other
Park.
side is pretty close to a dry field and.
That's
I see.
your motion and second are okay with that?
Yeah, plus,
Yes.
All right. Any other questions relative to the motion? Not necessarily muddy item. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Council, make it happen, chief.
Thanks, council. Thanks, Mayor.
Before we leave that, I got a nice letter today from Mayor Randall and Adam Lenhart, the St. George City Manager, and Chief Stoker, thanking us for sending our crews over to the fire they had on Diagonal Street on May 21st. Appreciating the willingness to come over and help, and a good compliment for you and your team, Chief, if you'd pass that along to them.
Great, I will. Thank you.
I heard that was quite the blaze.
Oh, it was. That was a windy day and it was really concerning for a lot of those residents and yeah, took a lot of work.
Awesome. And it's good to know that if we had one over here similarly, that St. George would be one of the first to show up. Help
Yeah,
us.
and they've helped us and they're willing to help us and it's a scratch each other's back type of a deal. So
Good deal. Thank you, sir. Okay, item number 6, Mayor and Council reports. Ben?
just a couple, on the email that went out about water and that, obviously conservation, things like that. Was there discussion on commercial land, landscape strips, things around the community on that, or?
Well, you're talking about the conservation measures that the water district is talking about and
Yeah.
encouraging. To start implementing them within the city, we'd have to put them into our conservation plan and probably bring ordinance back to you to implement that. You saw what Nevada did yesterday, the non-essential turf, no more non-essential turf in Nevada. I can see, at some point in time that Utah will be doing the same thing. As at least Washington County will.
And I think that's my question, is getting the number they're trying to hit down to the 50 or 0.5 or on the acre feet of water. Why not begin now at commercial centers, at these turf strips that, even the parking around parking lots and things like that of just starting to.
I think we can. I think we can instruct the staff to go back and look at the landscape requirements.
And I
And
don't-
build those conservation efforts into the commercial requirements. And we require large landscape strips. We probably need to limit or not allow irrigated turf within those landscape strips. So they have to do, most of them are, I don't know how much grass is going in them, but they still could. And I think it'd be nice if we just went in there and said no. Develop one of the other options. Where the water district is putting together some additional information that'll help the cities with those ordinances and probably some model ordinances that we could put into place. And we can implement them whenever you're ready, council. We just need to direct staff to put it together and bring it through.
And I think for our city, it's obviously we don't have a ton of commercial there, but you drive, as I read that email and started going, you start driving around, and I mean, me as a golfer, I start looking at places like Southgate going, geez, we could, we got 1 and 2 fairways that are lined with 100 feet of grass there. Let's make that desert scape, and you can hit out of the dirt just as well as you can hit out of grass. And, just starting cutting back some of these really not, eventually it's going to hit the residential, eventually all of that. I think it's only a matter of time as this area grows, but I do think water conservation, but I did agree in that. I think I was a little alarmed when other cities were going out doing their own projects, that if we're in this together with the water district, I think these water developments need to take place as a whole, as a Southern Utah, Washington County as a whole, and not we're going to do ours. If that's the case, let's go develop more wells and figure out what we can get more up where we've already got it. But I think it's important as we go to those that we're going to develop water resources as an entire community, because it's the entire community that needs it.
And I know Zach Renstrom with the water district feels that same way.
Yeah.
I was talking to him earlier in the week about still some of the kingdoms,
Yeah.
bringing all the kingdoms under one hat. So
Well, and I think that's the way it's been. I mean, that's the whole way it's been presented, and it should be. We should work to solve this problem together. And so, just on a separate thing, and I think Gary was talking about how Jack did it all. I'm pretty sure I know why he did it. He had some great people under him, and just kudos to all the staff. I mean, I see, wave to the guys paving or at least finishing up the paving. Parks guy, we just have a working commercial plumbing in that. In other cities, it's not the same. And I just our guys and gals are working hard, and it goes from the office here all the way down to the last guy there. So it's always fun to see them out there, and they're out early. They're out really early. So that's just kudos to all of them. Appreciate it, and good area to live.
yes,
That's all I have.
Wayna.
All my committees are on break for the summer, so I have
Nice.
no report.
Jared.
Got a couple things. I just wanted to thank Dustin for painting that curb red. It's the corner of Sagebrush and Rachel. I got a comment from the resident that it seems to be working really well. So I think that'll be a good way to keep that intersection safe. Just so you all know, we did get the draft agreement from Utopia. And so we sent that to Matt to review. I read through it. It's only like 12 pages. And it was basically what Roger presented to us in legalese. I think everything you talked about was in that agreement. So I don't anticipate any speed bumps with that. And then they also shared that they need their finance officer will get with Debbie to look at what our bond rating is and kind of get that process started to see how that might work out. So that's just moving along. I did get an email from TDS that they would like to bring some of their leadership team to one of our meetings, or maybe do it over Zoom to kind of share what their plans are for the future for Santa Clara, which I think would be really helpful for us to understand kind of what they're thinking their service will look like for us in the next 5 to 10 years. So I just gave Brenda Brock's email and said he was on vacation, but they can certainly get on an agenda if they'd like. And I did want to ask about the email that Brian Reed sent about the Bucks Ace sign on Rachel. I don't know if anyone read that, but I was just curious, is there anything that we can do as a council? I mean, it's a planning commission responsibility to approve signs. Is there anything? It's approved. So I was just curious.
Well, and part of his, I read through it too, and part of his complaints were specific to the ordinance in the historic district. So it's not applicable where he's at. The only question that I had, and I actually have a call in to a friend who is a director at Yesco, who's doing the sign, to find out the illumination for the sign, because I'm not sure it's considered direct, but I want to clarify. So
Yeah, I forwarded it to Matt just so he was aware of it,
yeah,
and asked him if he had any comment or feedback. I'm assuming Devin would have been to the meeting, but I'm not positive. So I just can see where that goes to.
Okay.
An answer to your question, I'm not sure what we can do, and he's not here.
Right. Okay.
So
Maybe I'll scroll around for a little while. We can see. And then we did have a CEC meeting just to amend our budget. Dixie State raised their threshold for what's considered equipment versus supplies. And so a bunch of stuff was now that we considered supply or capital equipment was now considered supplies. And so it was just more of an accounting thing. And that's it.
okay, Wendell.
I have no report, but I want to ask Brad a question about the Goobler Park 3 garbage can fires. Did we find anything out about those and who started them?
Yeah, we have some video cameras. They weren't complete at that time installed, but we were able to get some footage of 2 young men that were up there. The The ball games actually ended at 11, the lights went out at 11, and then at about 11:45, we saw some activity there. And I forwarded the video to the police and they're
We've-
reviewing it. So they kind of have identification.
Do we know anything about who started the fires?
Well, we have the video and we can see two young men there
I
on
understand that.
bicycles,
Did we
but
find out who those two young men were?
I'd have to ask Captain Rogers on that question if they did.
Okay.
This week, they've installed the additional cameras at Googler, and all the cameras and all the parks are up and currently running. If we had those cameras that night, I believe we could have identified who they were, but we just got a brief video because we had the ones that shoot out towards the outfields. So we just caught them as they were coming around on their bicycles, but we
Okay.
couldn't, get a very
So it's
good
good to
video.
have those in place now.
Yeah, all the cameras in the city are in place. They're at the yard. We have one left to put on City Hall tomorrow. Some minor adjustments on it, but they're all up and running. Except the one on the back of City Hall. So we're ready. We've had some other incidents too. Somebody knocked over the water fountain by the Googler playground. It was knocked over. We found that this morning, and other things like that. Quite a bit. I'm looking forward to having the cameras up and running and working with the police department to find out who they are.
Good.
Anything else?
Nothing else?
I got 3 or 4 comments about thanking the city for the pavement, the additional payment at the Red Mountain Drive intersection was Pioneer. Thanking us for getting that done. It's a lot safer. I went through it the other day and it's a lot safer. So thanks, Dustin, for getting that one done. Appreciate that. The Mayor's Association met, and COVID cases are still way down. You probably see them in the paper, the updates there. There are still people in the ICU on ventilators. Everybody that is in the ICU on a ventilator is a non-vaccinated individual. They still have not got anybody or have had anybody come through the ICU that has been vaccinated. So they're still encouraging people to get vaccinated to protect them. You may still get sick, but you're not going to be in the ICU on a ventilator. And so the docs are still pushing that one. Talking to some of the other mayors, a lot of the mayors in the small towns are not running for reelection. So we're going to see a bunch of new faces in the mayor's chairs around the county this election. There'll be some interesting races going. We probably we don't have a primary this year, which is good news. We'll just have the general election. One of the candidates is in the house. Good to see you, Jimmy. If you guys don't know this, Jimmy Keston. So we appreciate you being here and learning. He's one of the candidates, and so thank him for that. Justin and I talked briefly today about the upcoming transportation improvement plan projects. We're basically just going to ask for corridor study for the Western Corridor to be added to that list. So we're working on that. A lot of the other things will probably just happen in-house, and we'll just use our transportation impact fee money and local funds. When you do go after some of the state and federal money, the cost of the project increases significantly, and our projects are small enough that sometimes have to weigh the benefits versus the cost to doing it. Plus, you give up some of the control. So I think we'll work that way, but staff's doing a great job. They put do you want to give them an update on Vineyard Drive, Dustin?
Yeah, we did a RFP on Vineyard Drive, which is a request for proposal. And we got 2 interested law firms that sent in a SOQ for it. One was Rosenberg and Associates, one was Sunrise. And visiting with the mayor, Kent Fry is looking at developing his land down there. We may break it up into some phases. So there's several options that we're looking at there. Like that could be the first phase, since Kent would pay for, one side of the street. And there's some work that we could do in-house. So just want to let you know that we're looking at a few things on Vineyard Drive and hoping to get something going soon.
Are you thinking it would be designed in phases, or they design the whole road and then we?
I think the design will happen for the whole road, but the design will even happen in phases.
Okay.
Dustin and I were talking today, and with the abilities of the city forces and with on that first phase, it may make sense to get a first phase done sooner than later with working with the Fry family. That would only limit your lots to 7 or 8 property owners, and then he's the whole other side. And it solves the blind corner at the bottom of the hill that Dan Fry and a lot of the citizens were very concerned about. It would allow that to become a T intersection. Then look at a second phase. It would go from that point around through to the existing curb here, and maybe a third phase down on the west end. But I think we go ahead and proceed with the design, but we may accelerate the design and do it in phases as well. That would get us some cost numbers quickly that we could go back to a select group of property owners and try and get a project underway. I think construction, we don't have a choice with the funds. It's going to happen in phases just because of the city funding requirements relative to each phase. We'll have to spread that out over a few years. And so I think if we can jump into if we've got the money and with the adjacent development interest, maybe makes sense to do a phase sooner than later, which I think would help the entire project because it would show the people what it can look like. And it'd give us a pretty good idea on what problems we're going to run into with the water and drainage and those other things that are kind of question marks right now. And I cut staff off last meeting. So anything else to report? Captain Rogers, anything you want to tell council tonight? Chief Hancy? Gary?
On the Solus subdivision, does Utopia want to try to get conduit in there before we approve the final plat design?
I would assume so. Yeah,
Would Utopia be paying for that conduit?
they would be. Yeah.
So is that something we need to coordinate with Utopia and the developer of Solus?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I think that's just a call to Roger. I've discovered trying to contact him that the emails sit for several days and he doesn't answer his cell phone, but he does respond via email when I leave him a message on his voicemail. So that's probably your best route. Call his cell phone, leave a voicemail. Maybe calls office, leave a voicemail. I don't know. I haven't actually caught him on the phone yet, but because I was waiting for this draft agreement, waiting for a couple other things, and it had gone over the weekend and several more days. And then I just called, left a message, and he got right back with me.
Okay.
And that may be something that we could even have the city put in since we don't have an agreement with Utopia, with just the potential for reimbursement from Utopia once that agreement's signed. I mean, we can maybe do that.
But yeah, he had told me that they would come and do any new developments, even if we don't sign an agreement. They want to have the conduit in there because they
There you go.
anticipate they'll provide the service one way or another.
Okay. I will contact him and work out the details. Then we can get it to Alan and get it drawn in the plans before it's too late.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you.
Dustin?
The South Hills Waterline Extension Project is nearing completion. The water line is all in the ground. They're shaping the roadway, bringing in road base. The only delay is probably going to be the pump house and the pump itself. We've had, the contractor's been busy. They subbed it out to Dale Cox on the floor and another company on the pump. So that might be a month or two out, but the rest of it looks great and they've done a great job. So they're hoping their heavy equipment's out of there Friday and road will be open from here on out.
Have they charged the water line yet?
Yeah, it's full right now, except for the part from the pump house up to the adventure park. So we can't pressurize it without that pump.
Okay.
We will do that then though after.
Cool. Nothing, Brad? Okay. All righty. Brock, are you still there?
I am. I have nothing to add.
Okay, I appreciate you sticking around to the end, buddy.
Oh, appreciate it. It was fun.
Christelle or Chris, anything?
Nope.
Okay, we don't have an executive session tonight. So all I need is a motion to adjourn. We can get some dinner.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Lena and a second by Wendell to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being
Thank
here.
you.